Okay, this is Flora. Okay, it looks pretty good. It seems to kind of go up straight at the end there, so let's take a look at that. Let's look at the forward momentum of that ball. I'm going to go into the graph editor. Yeah, it's a little weird because it starts out slower, speeds up, and then slows down again at the end. So first of all, I wouldn't have it accelerate. I would have it, start at its full speed, and then maybe not quite so much deceleration. You can have a decelerate, but maybe not quite so much. And let's see um, how that looks. That looks a little more believable to me. Let's take a look at the squash and stretch. You have the contact frames, but it slides during those, and so that's where you can middle mouse click and keyframe. Oops. X. Oh, okay. It wasn't keyframed in the first place, so keyframe it there and there. Oh yeah. Still seems to be moving. Oh, I think did I do it? Let's try that again. Here, and the middle mouse here. There we go. And then probably have to go back and fix. So anyways, yeah, and then you can middle mouse, and then you have to go back and fix that again. Now that we've done that, okay, but yeah, overall that looks good. Here's Flora's realistic bounce. If you see ball bounces where they change speed, but it looks a little bit extreme, and B, if it's going to slide it around the ground, it's going to probably roll. So for this part, I would definitely say, whoops, I'm just going to turn off surfaces here. Set the rotate control. So I do Shift E here, and then let's just start with that. Pretty decent guess. That already looks better to me. But also, it's weird how it sort of seems to very abruptly kind of stop. Like nothing. You'd think that if the ball was going that fast at the end, that it would keep going. Like why does it suddenly lose its momentum? Which is why I would probably say that this is just going too far too fast. So let's take a look at that X curve. Yeah, and look at this go. It's like speeds up all of a sudden and then slows down. So I think if you kind of take it like more like that, I'll now have to change the resulting the rotation will be too much now, as you can see. one is it? Ball deform, rotate. It's this one, right? Needs to go back a little bit. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty believable. Okay, let's watch that again. Yeah, better. Well, it's got some of that weird randomness that real balls can have. Okay, good. Yeah, and you've got some squash and stretch in there, but you've kept it subtle. I think this is pretty good. I think it's just that stuff at the end that you could fix. Okay, this is Jeffrey. Alright, I think this looks good. I don't really get the flattening out thing at the end. And the other thing I would say that the timing of the squash and stretch is good, but it just looks maybe a bit exaggerated for the distance and speed that it's going. So I might just say, just tone it down a little bit with this guy, particularly on that first bounce. And one way you can do that real quick is to take this whole set of curves and R for scale, shift middle mouse from the center there, and just sort of reduce the effect of it. And I sort of would take this off. Oh, what have I done? Ah, I did something wrong. Okay. That's funny. I guess the default is translate y 0. Seems like that would have been right. 0. Yeah, I did kind of scale it around the 0. I don't know why it looked so weird. It shouldn't look so strange. Let's try again. Yeah, it's doing something weird. I should do a side by side here, see if I can see what's happening while I do that. Oh, I think something's happening. Maybe it's just because I need to, do I have scale in here or something? Feels like it's doing something to the scale. Let me see if I make sure I just have this selected. Aha, yeah, I had some unnecessary, I had some scale selected instead. That was the problem. Alright, maybe that's still that deflation thing at the end is weird, but I probably took away too much, but you get the idea that you can use scale to kind of either exaggerate or de-emphasize some stuff. Okay, here's the realistic bounce. Some interesting rotation stuff going on. That looks good, except at the end it looks kind of weird. Starting around here, like that little slide at the end. I was going to say it looks like slow motion, and that's because it's slow motion. Okay, let's take a look in here. I think that the problem of that bit at the end is that it's just the distance it's moving is much too much, and then the rotate doesn't quite follow the movement. So maybe starting here, I would just really decrease. First, I would sort of decrease the amount of movement we've got with everything, after this. So take this R for scale and just flatten that out a lot, and then take this to translate, and again R, and then flatten this out a bunch. So first, now I have it moving a lot less. Oh, and there's some crazy little twist in there too. And then now that I've done that let's fix the try to fix the rotation. So what I would probably do is I might just take these all out. Just shift select and delete, and then let's kind of see the movement here. So maybe up to here. Let's that's much too much. Okay. Actually, probably it doesn't turn until there, so maybe this can move to, whoops, to here. Didn't go quite far enough. That's too far. Can't really see that. Oh, that's too much. Still too much. Just getting a lot more subtle. So hide these. I think that's a little better. Yeah, so just kind of more subtle and slow at the end there. But yeah, I can tell you really studied the motion, and that's good. I think you kind of gave yourself a challenge by doing the slow-mo thing. I think it's good for studying movement, but I also think that's just a challenging kind of bounce to do, because at the end of the day it's going to look slow-mo because it is slow-mo, so it doesn't feel as kind of like bouncy or real time in a way. So, but yeah, overall this is good work. Okay, this is Alexander, Cartoony Bounds. It's good. It's maybe a little bit too... I mean, I think it's pretty good. It's just to do the extra holding frame. You could play with, as I did on the previous one, sort of scaling this down a bit. So just look at these translates, and R for scale, put it at 0, shift middle mouse, and tone that down a touch. The other thing is this, that one's a little bit less than this one, but this is almost the same as that, so I might, you know, scale this down a bit more, and then this one a bit more. See how we like that. I might have gone too far because it's a little less cartoony now. But anyways, the thing is you can, you know, play with that and adjust the taste. But overall, this is looking good. This is Craig's slightly deflated volleyball. Good. Yeah. I like that little roll at the end. That's nice. It's always nice if you have video reference. It's always nice to see it. Good. Yeah, that looks like you really studied the movement. Something about the fall feels a little slow, that first fall, maybe? Yeah, I don't know, there's something that feels slightly like it's defying gravity. I think maybe, oops, maybe squeezing these in a little bit, maybe speeding, well, we'd have to select everything, maybe take out a frame here, or two, G. And then I guess we'd have to do that here too. Oh, what the? Let's look at that Y curve again, and yeah, just look out for these, for the non-cartoony ones of those being too wide. And it's weird that these don't seem to be, I would think that these would all be at the same, like, height, or is that, should it be at 1? .025. What? I'm just going to see what happens if I change these all to 1. Yeah, I think that's slightly better. Anyway, it's really good work, very realistic. Okay, this is Taylor. Looks okay. There's something a little rubbery about it. I'm not sure what it is. I feel like maybe it's it's looking alright. Let's take a look. Okay. Yeah, we might play with the shape of these a little bit. Let me get that centered. Let me get this flat and a little A little more stretched out. Can this... maybe that one a bit too. Let's see if we like that any better. Not much different, really. The other thing I was thinking about is just the kind of the like the rate in which it does this, the squash and stretch. It's interesting that it feels like it's kind of more extreme here than on this first one. So it might be a question of just generally toning it down a little bit, but also, you know, having it reduce per bounce a little bit. R for scale, shift middle mouse. Let's see if we like that any better. What's going on here? Oh, it's not. I wonder if I just broke that just now. I think you're missing a keyframe here. Maybe a little better? I don't know. Okay. It helps to put it in textured mode because then that line kind of allows you to see the rotation. So yeah, let's look at this in mind. Okay, so for a realistic, it kind of just looks like the cartoony one without the squash and stretch. And I think, you know, it's really important to get some reference on a realistic ball to just, I think what you often see in real reference is the unexpected sort of rotations or change of speed and directions that you wouldn't do it when you're just sort of you know, animating from your mind. You're less likely to come up with those kind of random looking things. So if you did use reference, it'd be interesting to see it, because right now it looks sort of generic. I mean, it's kind of believable as a realistic bounce, sort of like a basketball maybe, except for at the end there it kind of abruptly stops. Whoops. Where? I'm getting the space bar to stop it. See, it's like it's still rotating, but it's kind of stopped moving or really slowed down moving. And it's like if you just ended it here, we wouldn't even notice, but the end looks a little funny. But yeah, I think it's okay. It just is missing a little bit that realistic life that you would tend to see if there's something less than, it's almost sort of too mathematically perfect in a way to feel very realistic. So kind of looking for those variations that you see when you look at reference. Okay, this is Josh. I think it seems to kind of zip in and then slow down a little bit abruptly, so I think we might look at that forward momentum, and then maybe it's also not quite touching the ground, so let's check that, and maybe toning down the squash and stretch, but we can take a look, and it kind of pops up a little fast on those, but we can look at that Y translate curve as well. Let's just take a look at the curves. So I can see here where it's going faster here than it is in the rest, so I might even that out a little bit because it seems abrupt. And then These look pretty good. I might adjust this one a little bit. Maybe it's not quite as long, but yeah, the shape of these is pretty good. Yeah, and then that, like that thing I showed before of sort of toning down some of the squash and stretch. So we could take this and just these curves here and select those. R for scale, shift middle mouse from the zero. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Undo, shift middle mouse drag from this line, and then maybe these kind of scale down a little bit more than the other ones. And let's take a look at that. Yeah, maybe a little better. Okay, let's take a look at the realistic. Okay, I think this is supposed to be from a basketball. Looks pretty realistic. Maybe that looks like a lot of stretch for a realistic basketball, so I would tone that down a bit. But it's got kind of a springy bounce like a basketball, but it feels like it might hold a little bit too much. Okay. Yeah, there's some weird thing in that bounce. Maybe that first one is sort of too fast. So it stays, it's kind of like, I guess that's sort of meant to be off screen. But so let's just assume we're looking at these. I mean, I guess they look okay. This one I might adjust a little bit because that's sort of long at the end there. And yeah, I mean, mostly that looks good. Yeah, maybe look for any extreme looking squash and stretches, because for realistic, might tone it down some. Look how low that one is and stuff. So might just kind of tone these down, and R for scale, shift middle mouse drag, just make that smaller. For a realistic bounce, it'd be pretty small amount of squash and stretch. Yeah, that looks a little more realistic to me. There is still something, it's almost like too springy bouncy. I wonder if we want to play with that that Y curve anymore, because I think that it sort of hangs here at the top and then snaps down a bit too much. So you might, just scale the tops of these in a bit, so it's not, you see how it kind of hangs in the air there? Whoops. Which, might be nice for a cartoony, but for realistic, I think it's a bit much. Something like that, I don't know. So if we like that any better. Yeah, that's starting, except for at the beginning there, it's starting to look a little more natural to me. Alright. Alright, this is Gwen. Looks pretty good. I think maybe some adjustment in the forward momentum. Because it depends how you're looking at it. Maybe that is fine as it is. Let's take a look at the curve. It does seem to accelerate a little bit at the end there. I try to make that more consistent. Oops. Maybe more like that. Let's see if we like that any better. Maybe a touch different. Looks about the same, really. A little bit different. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, here's a realistic bounce. This is a softball. I can tell you really studied the movement. There's just some stuff that looks, it'd be good to have the reference, but some of the ball kind of acceleration and deceleration looks a little odd. Like kind of that, it's just that it feels like in midair on that bounce there that it's picking up speed in midair. Let's take a look at that. So here's some, I can see it's right around here there's some acceleration. So let me do side by side here. So I can imagine acceleration caused by the spin, but I think that it sort of feels like it's speeding up. Certainly, if we look at, like between here, it shouldn't, this is midair right there. So between here and here, it shouldn't accelerate. So at the very least, whoops. I might tone that down just at least a little bit. I can understand the spin causing it to speed up there, but then that shouldn't be, oops, any faster. So and then I guess try to get the rotation at the end there, right? Because right now it's doing a lot of sliding. So let's just take this red line here and, oh, where'd you put your rotation? No, it's, oh, that is changing. What was the keyframe off the side of it or something? So I'll just so maybe it gets starting here, and then it needs to just go a little further, something like that. See how that looks. Yeah, just because it needs to feel like it's, rolling on the ground at the end. All right, yeah, good work. I can tell you're really observing the reference. This is Gordon. Okay, I think it's got some of the basics in there. You didn't get the rotation, which I think. So let's take a look. And you didn't do the extra holding frames, which you might try to do. So yeah, and so if you do want the rotation, you can just get this red guy and I'll do Shift E at the beginning, and then maybe at the end I'll just have it, rotate some amount, and makes for just sort of a more interesting look. Right, Gordon's realistic bounce. Again, I think some rotation is going to help, because I think that's a big part of that. And right now, this doesn't look very realistic to me. So this is realistic bounce. Yeah, it just, the timing and stuff, it just right now it looks just sort of like a different kind of cartoony bounce. And even then, I think you'd get a little bit more, even, with the realistic kind of bounce. See, that doesn't look like, the Y curve doesn't look like what a real bounce would do. I think you'd get at least a little bit more of a pop at the bottom. Oops. Oops. See if we, and then these seem a little offset here. Maybe they go like that. That looks a little better to me, but yeah, again, I think the rotation would help, and also just really studying the reference to look for those unusual surprises you see when you look at real reference. But the rotation is an important part of making it look realistic. This is Catherine. So yeah, let's switch to Maya, because it's with the curves on and without the texture, it's a bit harder to. Okay. Yeah, I think it looks alright. I think the big thing is getting the rotation in there, and I just demonstrated this on the last one, but you can get this red curve here, and it looks like you've got some keyframes on it, but oh, nothing's happening. So I would just delete those, and then maybe by the end it's rotated some amount. Anyways, looks a little more interesting. This is realistic balance. I just jumped right into Maya because of the texture and the curves. There's something funny, especially about that second bounce. We should take a look. Yeah, look at that. That's not. Also, I wouldn't do a second contact frame on a realistic bounce. That's a real, that's a real cartoony thing to do. So, I would tend to say you're not going to have these guys, and that you're going to, flatten these like normal and make sure these are broken. And oops. I just wanted to move all these at the same time. And these. Some more trouble than it's worth, I feel like. Yeah. And then, maybe adjust the position of this, the timing of that a little bit. Maybe this one too. Oops. And let's see if we like that any better. What did I push here? It's not, it still looks weird. these need to... Yeah, and then why is this bounce so much longer than the ones before it? And that last bit, you know, maybe some extra, some roll on there. Shift E, I might take out this one. And just a little bit of rotation there or something like that. Oh, it kind of goes too fast at the end there. Maybe that's part of the issue too. It sort of accelerates at the end there. Seems to suddenly speed up here. Yeah, you've got a lot of speeding up and slowing down. I might just kind of take out a bunch of these and then kind of make that a little more subtle there. And take out a few more just to kind of smooth that out some. See what we think of that. Maybe better? I don't know. Seems to kind of hang in the air on this bounce a little bit too. Maybe that needs to be faster. So yeah, I think that could use more adjustments and really study a reference. Okay, this is Adanya. I think that looks pretty good. I just might even out the forward momentum a little bit on that. Because it starts out going forward very fast and then seems to slow down and then speed up again at the end. So you might try having that a little more even. You might like that better. And here's the realistic bounce. Okay, let's take a look at the reference for this. Let's compare that to this one again. I might say, you know, I would really tone down this kind of squash and stretch for the realistic one, which it looks like you've done a little bit more. There's still some in there. Oh, and you're going to want to take out those holding frames because you're not going to find holding frames in a realistic bounce. Because look, you've got, you know, it's here, it's here, it's there, right? There's no holding frame. It sure is bouncy though. So yeah, take out those holding frames and reduce the squash and stretch on those. You can get it closer to that. So let's take a look in the, I don't really like that view. Okay, graph editor. Yeah, so we don't want these in here. And maybe it'll shift these back one. And then for the squash and stretch guy, we'll let's just tone this down a bit. I'll take all these, R for scale, shift, middle mouse drag, and just make it real subtle because you won't see too much of that in a realistic bounce. Yeah, that's already looking better to me. Okay.